Hi everyone. I am going to go through and share with you some tips and tricks to doing your research for your musician research project. I'm Mrs. Morgan. If you haven't met me, I'm in the library like every other day. I'm also at ACMA, but you can also send me an email. So if you have questions or if you need help, um, you can either find me or send me an email. All right, a couple things as we get started. I want you to remember that when you get started, you want to gather a little bit of background information on your subject so that you have a little working knowledge about it. When you are doing searches, you want to use keywords, not full sentence questions. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Make sure you're using academic language when you're using, don't use slang or bad language, unless, of course, the musician that you're researching, their name has slang in it, then of course you want to use it. Okay, couple things about doing an online search. First of all, when you're searching, especially if you're using Google, you need to realize that Google is a search engine. It's not a source, so you can't use it in your citations as a place where you got your information because it helped you find the information, but it actually didn't provide it. Wikipedia is not a reliable source. It's crowdsourced, so anybody can contribute, and they do fact check things, but it's not always as quick as you might hope, and you never know if what you find today somebody has actually already checked before you found it. So I would stay clear of that. Okay, if you're just doing regular old going to the internet and doing searches, you need to know that you might find some really good information. You can find stuff from websites that are news sites. They might be, scholarly journals, books, ebooks, primary source interviews. But you could also find a lot of things that are, somebody's personal blog or their social media. There could be an entertainment or a joke site where somebody's making fun of a particular person or just making something just to just do it. So you need to be careful and remember that a lot of what is on the internet is not reliable. So you need to be very careful about it. And whenever you do find something on the internet, you always want to use the radar method. And we'll talk more about that in a minute to evaluate it. That is why, because that's a lot of work. And it's also kind of, it just kind of leads you to question the things that you find. Way to avoid that is to use our library databases because they're reliable. They've already been fact checked, and we know that the information is coming from safe, reliable sources. So you don't need to do any of the extra work, which is nice. So if I were you, I'd use our library databases. Okay, keywords. So here's an example. Let's say we're doing research about what are the effects, if any, of television violence on children. When I want to narrow this down to keywords, my keywords would be effects, television violence, children. If I just type those things in instead of this whole sentence, I'm zoning in on the things I want to know about, and I'm not going to have searches looking for all these other words. So just something to keep in mind. Eliminate the words you don't need. It'll make it more effective. Here's a quick video. I'll make sure to provide this slideshow to your teacher so that you can watch this. It just gives you some tips about using and or as you do searches to expand or limit the search results you get. When you're searching for things just online, you always want to ask yourself, is this really good or is it trash? Is it something that I really should steer clear of and move on? And the way that you're going to do that is using that radar method. But the reason that we need to evaluate the things we find online is because virtually anybody can publish something on the internet. I could sit down, my dog could sit down and write something and publish it, and there's nobody to stop you or to check, make sure what you're writing is actually truthful or accurate. So unlike things that you find that are printed, there's no kind of professional standard about what is on there, and there's really no one editing or checking it. So you always have to proceed with caution. So this method is the radar method, and that's what you would use. So if you're going to look online, maybe you're going to use Google to help you find something. Whatever you do find, you're going to want to use this method and just go through and ask yourself some of these questions like, why did the writer publish this? Is this research? Is it something that they're doing for fun? Are they trying to sell something? So what was the reason that they published it? Who are they? What are their credentials? Do they work with someone reputable? Are they a writer for a magazine, or are they just some guy? And then when was it published? Is it recent? If they don't give you a publication date, that would maybe throw up a red flag. But something that you're searching, you don't want something that's too old that might not be very accurate currently. And then, was the information reviewed by editors or experts before it was published? Do they have citations or references? So if they've written something and they have factual information, they should be citing where they got their sources. So you should be able to readily find that. And then making sure that they cite the references correctly. So you're doing that for your research. If you see that they're not doing it correctly, that would lead you to think, maybe they're not a real author. Maybe I should move on. And then relevance. Is it really important to what you're doing? If it's not, then don't use it. Don't waste your time on things that don't really relate to what you want. Okay, so to avoid having to go through this process and the things that you find, you can go to our library databases. And these are free. They're available to you all the time. I've made you a little shortcut if you want to type this in and bookmark it. It's a really easy one-click way to get to all the databases for all your classes when you're doing research. There are encyclopedias, reference ebooks, journal articles, news stories, primary sources like interviews, videos, things like that. The benefits of using these are they're reliable. You can get your citations in one click. You don't have to do anything. Really, you can easily save things to Google Drive. You can take notes real easily. It's available all the time by clicking on, there's a password icon that looks like this. If you click on that, it'll help you to log into any of these. So when you're at home, if you log into the library database, if you click on one of these, it will ask you for the username and password. You can find those by just going to this icon, and they're all there, okay? If you use them at school, you don't have to log in anything. You'll just automatically get into them. But from home, you have to log in the passwords. They're all a little bit different. Here are the three for this project that I think would be the most helpful to you. So if I were you, I'd just stick to these three, make it easy for yourself. The first one is the Gale in Context biography. There's Fine Arts and Music, and then there's Gale in Context High School. Okay, and I put the usernames and passwords, so if you're at home, it's real easy to get into them for you. Okay, so why do I like these sites? Well, Gale sites are nice because they have tools built into them that integrate with Google Drive. So they're going to make things really easy for you. You have a search box here. You can type in what you're searching for. And then when the results come up, you'll see the date. You'll see where it was published, and then what type of document it is. And then up here, you have little tools. So you have the Cite tool, which will bring up the citation in one click. You can send it to your Google Drive. You can download it. You can print the article. You can just get the link for it. And you can make highlights and notes. You have some tools right here for your text size and fonts. You can have the article read to you if that's easier for you. And then you can click right here. There's a Google icon for saving it to your Google Drive. Ooh, I didn't want to do that. And then the nice thing also is to the right, or sometimes down at the bottom of an article, they have more to explore. So there's other articles that are related that might be other places to look. So as you're going, you could kind of weave through a web of different articles related to what you're currently looking at. So if you like the article you're on, you might want to look at what is related more like that. All right, let's see. When you save an article to your Google Drive, it's actually going to make a folder in your Google Drive with the name of that database. So if you want to find it, you can just look right there, and everything that you save will be there. So your citations, your highlights, your notes, they'll show up. Here's an example of one where I did some highlights about Bob Marley's 75th birthday. And here's the source. And then here are the things that I highlighted from the text. So I could easily go back to the article if I wanted to, or I could just use this information in my writing and easily make my citation at the end when I'm doing that. All right, so I'm going to go in. Here are the databases. And if I'm here, let's start with biography and context. So if you're in here, You can browse through people. So if you're not quite sure who you want to do, you could say browse and you could look through. There's thousands of people in here. Many of them are musicians. Let's say you want to know more about ABBA. Okay, remember I said find some background information? Any of these, when you first start off, there's an overview. That's background information. So if you just want like a little bit of information, you want to just kind of know the basics, you can look through that kind of introduction. It tells you a little bit about what you need to know about them. So there's that. You could save this to your Google Drive. You could cite it. If I click that, here's my citation. You could save that for later. Or if you want to take some notes, highlight the things that you want to save, or you want to have in your notes. Here, I'll use some different colors. Okay, so let's say I'm going to do that. If you click highlight and notes, and then view, and here you can see I took some notes earlier, but it will show you that. I just missed this. Okay, and then go back. If I say send to Google Drive, there you go. It says it's been sent and it'll appear shortly. That will include my notes. It'll show up in my Google Drive with these highlights as part of it. So that's pretty nice. All right. And then, like I said, you can change the text size. If you want to, if the font bothers your eyes or something, you could change that. Usually people are pretty okay with what's there. All right. So there are those basics. Now, the other thing I want to show you, and this is just a little tip for you. Well, first of all, let me go back here. I'll go back and then I'll show you my cool tip. When you're searching for something in particular, so we did a search for ABBA, and if you look here, it'll tell you all the results that you got. So there were 8 biographies, there's a website, there are 6 audio tracks. So these could be songs, they could be interviews. Looks like most of these are interviews. So if you wanted to listen to some interviews, you could. Usually there's videos that come up for different people. There's news articles, there's magazine articles. I'm kind of surprised they don't have images. A lot of times there'll be a lot of images that will come up. Let's see. Related topics you can see down here. So if you wanted to do people who were famous in the 70s, you could do that. The other thing you could do here is you could search within results. And then, let's see, I'm going to do featured content. If I go into featured content, I could search these by the newest. So if you want to know what's been published most recently, you can sort through your results and it'll show you. So the most recent article in this section is from 2013. It's pretty old. Let's go back. Let's go back out to all content. So if I go to let's look at magazine articles. I know that they've recently released new music. So let's see, what's the most recent thing? Oh yeah, 2021. So this is probably talking about the new song. So there you go. Some different ways. You can also filter your results by date, title. You can search within the results. You can look at the different subjects, types of documents, the level of the content, things like that. So, and then like I said before, if you're in an article, oh, this is just the song list. Okay. Let's see. If I'm looking at this article, here's more like it. And then if I scroll down, there are other articles like it also. And then you can actually go to the original article if I wanted to. I'm not going to do that right now, but you get the idea. You can see where it came from. All right. So that's that. And then the other thing that I want to show you, which is my tip for you, is there is an extension that you can add to Chrome that's called Read and Write. And I highly recommend that you add this if you don't already have it. Hopefully you do, but if you don't, you can go to the Chrome Web Store, just type in Read and Write and add the extension. All right, so once you do that, your extensions look like this little puzzle piece that shows up on your toolbar. And if you scroll down, you should find, alphabetically, you should find Read and Write. Now, I would recommend that the little pin next to it, you click it so it turns blue. That's going to give you a little shortcut icon in your toolbar. So that whenever you want to use Read and Write, you can click on it and it will pop right open for you. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go back to AC/DC. Oh, no, I won't. Let's go back. Let's go back to App. Okay, I'm going to click Read and Write. It's going to bring up this toolbar. Now, this toolbar is actually going to pretty much do what you were doing with your other kind of the built-in highlights. But what's nice about this, I think, is, and I'll show you how it works. Let's say I want to take some notes here. I can do the highlights this way instead of using the built-in tools. And this is nice too if you're doing your research just online and you aren't in the databases. This is something that you can use no matter where you're searching. So I kind of like that. I'm just going to highlight a couple of random things. Remember, you're using these. Okay, I'm going to ignore this. All right, and then right here, kind of looks like the recycle symbol. It says collect highlights. If you click that and say, okay, I just think this is really cool. It will save the things that you took notes on, and it will give you a link back to the article in your name. So it doesn't make a folder, it just makes you a document. And then you can name it whatever you want. Maybe Abba Notes page 1, and then you could just keep working. So if you were, like I said, if you want to do a combination of just looking online and using the databases, this is a great tool. It's got some other features too that you could try out, but that's really what I wanted to show you because I just think that that's really convenient. And then if you wanted to, let's see, I could go back to my article here, and I could get the citation, select it, copy it, and then I'm going to go back to that notes page just so that I don't have to worry about it later. There we go. I have all my stuff together in one spot. Easy peasy. All right, let's go back. Remember, you're looking at the variety of sources. You can search within your results. And then don't forget, you can use filters, filter by dates, things like that, so that you're finding what is most relevant to what you're looking for and helping yourself find the best information you can. All right. Again, if you have any questions, let me know, and good luck.